Welcome to the JCPS MTSS Modes of Instruction and Student Practice Toolkit Training on the High Yield Practice Jigsaw Method. I'm Melissa Loxton, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Zone 3.
I am Kelly Hagan, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with the Middle School Zone.
Please take a moment to type the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will allow you access to all the links for the activities and resources offered throughout this presentation. Here you see the components of multi-tiered systems of support, also known as MTSS. As you can see, the multiple levels of support which MTSS provides for all learners easily aligns with our district's 6 systems for students. MTSS addresses academic, social, emotional, and behavioral development. It focuses on overall school improvement that is sustainable. This presentation encompasses several components, but most notably teacher support through resources that can be used to accelerate student learning to be used during instruction, as well as teacher professional development. This concept map shows a visual of the departments in JCPS within MTSS. The MTSS Academic Department provides teachers with Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention and academic support. This department is led by Donna Lawson. The MTSS Behavior Department, led by Sandra Hensel, supports schools in implementing school-wide behavior systems and frameworks, which includes PBIS and restorative practices. The goal of our department, the MTSS Engagement Department, is to increase student achievement by equipping teachers with high-yield pedagogical practices to maximize student engagement. Both the MTSS Engagement Department is led by Dr. Naomi Brahim. The point of contact for each department is located in the concept map. 6 MTSS toolkits were created to provide resources for Tier 1 instructional practices to increase student engagement and reduce student behaviors. Here are the 6 MTSS toolkits. The website is linked on the image. Let's start with the definition of modes of instruction and student practice. Teachers need to be well-versed and fluent in implementing various modes of instruction. This includes providing a variety of opportunities in which students can practice skills being introduced in the lesson. Once students have acquired a basic knowledge and skill within any lesson, there is a critical need to supply opportunities for successful practice. However, there are keys to effective use and delivery of practice. These practice strategies enhance learning and improve the student's prognosis for future performance. The success criteria for this high-yield practice is when the teacher implements the Jigsaw method to allow students to work in collaborative groups where each student's part is essential for the completion and full understanding of the final product. In this session, we will learn how to effectively implement the Jigsaw method. As we do this, you will be able to reflect on how the Jigsaw method can improve student learning and engagement in the classroom, and how it can be used in your classroom. Like a jigsaw puzzle, in this strategy, each student's part represents a piece of the puzzle. Each part is important for the completion and understanding of the final product. This video discusses the steps of Jigsaw.
So what is the Jigsaw method? Developed by Elliot Aronson in 1971, Jigsaw is a cooperative learning strategy where each student in a group takes responsibility for one chunk of the content, then teaches it to the other group members. Like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, students fit their individual chunks together to form a complete body of knowledge. Here are the steps of a basic jigsaw, sometimes referred to as Jigsaw 1. Step 1 is to divide students into groups of 4 to 6 people per group. Jigsaw works best when you have the same number of students in each team, so avoid having some groups of 4, some of 5, and some of 6. Later in this video, I'll show you what to do if you can't divide students into perfectly even teams. For this example, we'll assume you're working with a class of exactly 30 students who can be divided evenly into groups of 6. We'll call these jigsaw groups. Step 2, divide your content into 4 to 6 chunks. It's important to divide the content into the same number of chunks as the number of students in each group. So if you have 6 students per group, break your content into 6 chunks. If you're only going to have 5 students in each group, then you'll only need 5 chunks. Suppose you're a history teacher and you're doing an overview of different types of government. You could divide your content into these chunks: democracy, dictatorship, monarchy, republic, totalitarianism, and theocracy. By the way, these index cards just represent chunks of content. You don't need to use actual index cards to do Jigsaw. A chunk of content can be a section of a textbook chapter, a handout containing information, or an online resource. Step 3, assign one chunk of content to each person in the Jigsaw group. Each group has one person responsible for one chunk of the content. That person will be expected to teach that chunk to the rest of the group. At this point, students don't really interact with other members of their group. They just read and study their own chunk of content independently. Then their independent study is fortified by the next step. Step 4, have students meet in expert groups. After each student has studied his or her chunk independently, they gather with all the other students who have been assigned to the same chunk. These are called expert groups. Within each expert group, students compare their ideas and work together to prepare some kind of presentation to give to their Jigsaw group. During this time, gaps in individual students' knowledge can be filled, misconceptions can be cleared up, and important concepts can be reinforced. Step 5, students return to Jigsaw groups. Now that students have studied their chunks in their expert groups, they return to their original Jigsaw groups, where each student takes a turn presenting their chunk of information. Meanwhile, the other students listen carefully, take notes, and ask lots of questions. Once the first expert has gone, the others take their turns. As each expert teaches their chunk of content, the others in the group are learning it. Step 6, assess all students on all the content. The assessment can be a simple quiz to make sure all students got a basic understanding of all the material. Be sure to include all content chunks in. So what is the Jigsaw method?
Here are the 6 easy steps for Jigsaw that the video discussed. You will first divide your students into groups, then divide your content into chunks. Each student will be assigned one chunk of content and meet with their expert group, who are all becoming experts on the same content. They will then return to their original group or Jigsaw group and share out what they learned from their expert content chunk. Last, you will assess all the students on all the content discussed. Here are a few benefits of using the Jigsaw method. It provides a structure for students to work collaboratively with others. It also encourages active learning, helps learning stick, and students will get practice in self-teaching.
With any instructional practice, there are potential obstacles that a teacher may come across. With this method, the 4 potential problems that may arise are dominant students, or the students that often take over class discussions and group work, the struggling students, students that often take longer to learn and master content, boredom for high-achieving students, those students that become disengaged because they feel the task isn't challenging enough, and competitive learning mentality, where students try to outdo and outperform one another through their knowledge of the content in their expert groups. To overcome some of the obstacles presented with this method, teachers should assign roles to students, such as discussion leader, so that every student has an opportunity to share their ideas. The expert groups give all students a chance to learn their section together before reporting back to their original group. Jigsaw gives an opportunity to break up the normal classroom routine by taking the ownership of learning from the teacher to the student. This encourages cooperative learning instead of competitive, as students help each other to understand the content. In this video, the teacher is utilizing the Jigsaw method during math. As you watch the video, make a list of how this method is benefiting the students in her classroom.
A jigsaw activity is an activity that I usually use during review of material. In this activity, I have several teams. Each team becomes an expert on a topic or a type of problem. Team number or table number 3 is going to be, you're going to be experts on question 5 and 6, right? Table number 5, you're going to be experts in question 7 and 8.
And we can do some fun with 10. By two, and it'll be 2 fields.
And then we switch students around. They form new teams, and in their new teams, they are supposed to explain what they learned in their initial team. So you have 4 minutes to show your team your work. So let's start. I like using jigsaw puzzles, number 1, because it includes a little bit of movement. Also, students are accountable on learning very well a topic, and they feel that they are experts on something. They can explain to others what they learn, and they give them some type of self-confidence on the material.
In order for the Jigsaw method to reach its full effect size, students must become experts of their given content, just as the teacher did with her math class. All 6 steps of the Jigsaw method need to be included during implementation. However, order of these steps does not matter. In this particular video, students gained a deeper understanding of the content by teaching others, engaged with the math curriculum in a way that made sense to them, and experienced cooperative learning. Some things to consider when implementing the Jigsaw method in your classroom are to ensure that you review and model the expectations and steps with students. Students may get lost or confused as to what their role is throughout the task. Integrate scaffolds into the home and expert groups to help facilitate conversations within the expert groups. Provide graphic organizers to assist students with organizing their learning while they become experts. And frequently check in with all groups to help hold students accountable for their role. Take a moment and reflect on how the Jigsaw method can improve student learning and engagement in the classroom. How can you see the Jigsaw method being used in your classroom? With any instructional practice, there are always things to consider before implementing to ensure all students are actively engaged in the content through the delivery method. When using the Jigsaw method, some cultural considerations are to focus on the development of cooperative learning as students become the teachers of their expert groups. Be sure to use a variety of experiences, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, so students feel successful when learning and teaching the content to other groups. Teachers should also be conscious of English language learners and provide scaffolds where necessary to support comprehension. When using the Jigsaw method in classrooms with ECE students, teachers should integrate scaffolded supports that increase student practice along with metacognitive strategies that allow for students to become more fluent in a specific skill so they can use the skill correctly in future problem solving. The Jigsaw method is a great way to integrate deeper learning into the classroom. When used effectively, students are working within workshops that support student learning needs and assist in building foundational knowledge related to learning outcomes. It allows for application of content as students teach their skills to others in the class. Here you will find additional resources to assist in successful implementation of the Jigsaw method in your classroom. In order to help with implementing the Jigsaw method, we've provided you with a Plan, Do, Study, Act tool, which is linked to this slide. During an upcoming PLC, be sure to discuss ways to implement effective and equitable classroom discussion within your instruction. Thank you for joining us to learn more about the Jigsaw method as a way to increase student engagement with content. If you would like more information about the MTSS toolkits and other high-yield practices, please visit our department website by clicking on the link. Have a great day.